It's Friday evening on Twisted Talk. I'm Gary.
I'm Sue.
And folks, you think, hey, we got through the day. Well, no, you did not get through the day weather-wise. And we're going to give you a breakdown because this has just been issued within the last 30 minutes. And we're on a tornado watch. So Sue, go ahead and break down the particulars on this.
Yeah, this is Tornado Watch 269. It's valid from 7:15, which was half an hour ago, until 3 a.m. The parameters on this are all really high, so high that I am really kind of surprised that this isn't a PDS watch, because all of the hazards, apart from EF2 tornadoes, are pegged at high.
Right.
With EF2 plus tornadoes pegged at moderate. This particular watch basically covers a little sliver of western Indiana, most of central Kentucky, and basically pretty much all of west, southwest, and central Ohio. It actually even covers a little sliver of West Virginia, so it's a pretty good-sized watch.
Right.
And like I said, it runs till 3 a.m. The primary threats at the moment, tornadoes, with a couple of intense tornadoes likely, which makes me question why EF2 tornadoes are only listed as moderate.
Right.
I don't know what's going on there. Widespread damaging winds and isolated significant gusts, 80 miles an hour likely, scattered large hail, and isolated very large hail events to 3 inches in diameter are likely. So if you can get your car in your garage, you probably should do that. Right now, the storms are still in... They're still in...
Eastern Indiana.
I'm clicking from screen to screen, which is why this is kind of hard. Yeah. They're basically in western Indiana with another line behind them in eastern Indiana. Mm-hmm. They're moving they're moving east-northeast. They're definitely not moving west. That would be very strange. They're moving very quickly, and the thing that makes them especially troublesome is that they are moving into an area that is quite juiced at the moment.
Yeah, very, very juicy atmosphere above us. If you notice today, we did not hit 86. That was good because I think that might have provided even more energy tonight. But taking a look at what's happening with the significant weather, so let me run this down for you again. According to radar imagery, a cluster of supercells is currently ongoing across much of the lower Ohio Valley. That includes most of Indiana. This cluster is being supported by a shortwave trough and an associated 70 to 80 knot mid-level jet. In other words, the low-level jet we've talked about is in play. And that's going to move it eastward across Ohio as the evening goes on. The chance of tornadoes here is high in regards to anything, basically from EF0 to on up. What that means basically is a lot of this is going to occur again after dark. Again, we're running that same problem we've run into before in other parts of the country. It's what's happening when the sun goes down is a big concern, because usually everybody's out there looking for a storm. Well, you're not going to see anything coming up on your doorstep at 11 o'clock at night. And so the fact this goes until 3 o'clock in this morning means basically every place under that watch is going to be under the gun at least for the next 6 hours. And we can't rule that out. Once these storms move into Ohio, they're going to get into a much juicier atmosphere, and that's going to cause even more intensification, as bad as these storms are now. So the radar, none of them are tornado warned. They're all severe thunderstorm warned.
Actually, that's not true. A number of them are tornado warned.
Okay, I'm looking at the radar here, and...
Oh, okay. Well, maybe I'm looking at the radar, or you're looking at the radar, and I'm looking at the actual watch diagram.
Okay, I'm looking at this.
So that may lag. So I don't know.
Might be lagging. My bad. But it says here severe thunderstorm watch with the yellow warnings with the yellow boxes, and they're all yellow boxes. But okay. I've also noticed in the last half hour or so, some of these are starting to develop significant hail cores.
That doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of whites now in the center of these storms that you didn't see even a half hour ago. They're only going to get stronger and nastier as they move into the Buckeye State again until 3 o'clock in the morning. And already there's been some reports of some pretty active weather today across the Midwest. I know that we were talking earlier about what happened. Excuse me. We had a tornado just outside of, just north of St. Louis, right?
Yeah, it basically went just north of of downtown St. Louis, and it certainly, I think it looked worse than it was, because I haven't seen any pictures of anything worse than EF1 or maybe borderline EF2 damage. But still, when you have a tornado going through a major metro area like that, that's really frightening.
It is, because even an EF0 tornado crossing a freeway can cause many issues, crashes, pileups, and everything else. Now, there have been reports in Indiana this afternoon, especially there's been a large strong tornado reported in Greene County, Indiana, near Linton, and they're still looking into that. And they've also observed severe thunderstorms with tornadoes in that area, debris balls in the air. So that tells me that some of these tornadoes have got some punch to them, at least EF2, probably more. And again, those are in west central Indiana toward the Illinois border. But those storms now are moving into the eastern part of the state and will move into the Buckeye State probably in the next 30 minutes or so. Sue, I would imagine even at the speed they're going, it's still going to be probably after 10 o'clock tonight before they get here. It's just an educated guess, but I'm thinking at least 10 o'clock or maybe even a little later before they start moving into the central Ohio area.
Yeah, I'm thinking that's probably roughly correct. So people, of course, west of here, if you're in Dayton, if you're in Covington or Cincinnati, you need to keep an eye out, because they're going to hit you a lot sooner.
Right, and that area is still in a moderate risk in that area, Cincinnati southward, which means the likelihood of a stronger or violent tornado is actually going to be more enhanced in that area moving south than it is in our area, although we can't rule one out. But that is seems to be more of an area, and also some areas that have been in the moderate risk area today have received some pretty nasty tornadoes. Of course, nothing has been set in stone as strength and everything, but I've seen reports coming out of damage and debris and everything, but again, nothing settled yet. And so the other thing I've noticed real quickly is, again, the same places that have been hit with flooding rains over the last few weeks got hit again today and last night. Kentucky and Tennessee areas, some areas reporting, Sue, 3 to 7 inches of rain in some of these areas. Now, again, that's all just local weather station reporting, so you can't say that's set in stone. But I've seen pictures again of flooding, and I'm like, my gosh. And Maryland, they had catastrophic flooding a few days ago, and Sue, they look to get zapped tomorrow as the system moves further east.
Yeah, well, it also looks like they've been having some nasty weather in that general area today as well, because we actually have a tornado report out of New Jersey today.
Oh, wow.
Now, admittedly, it was only an EF0, but I mean, New Jersey tornado, that's a little unusual.
Yep, that's like, I remember years ago, the one that hit Passaic, New Jersey, back in 1965. The reason I remember that real quickly, because I was 9 or 10 years old, but I remember the sky looked very weird, and we lived in an area that had some hills, and over to the to the south of where we lived, you could see the clouds covering the tops of the hills that you can normally see on a sunny day. Yeah. And it was very eerie. And that is set in my mind even 60 years later. And then the fire station sirens go off, and then it's like my mom screaming out the door, "Get home, get home!" So we got home, and she goes, "That's a tornado." I said, "What's a tornado?" I actually asked what a tornado was back in those days. Boy, if that ever gets out.
Back then, a tornado was almost anything.
Yeah, really. All right. So, again, a tornado watch in effect for most of west central, southern, and central Ohio until 3 o'clock in the morning. More than likely, as the evening goes on, there'll be another tornado watch probably issued east of us, probably in the overnight hours. But these storms are beginning to pack quite a punch. There have been reports of tornadoes with some of these storms. Also, again, significant hail cores have developed in the last 30 to 45 minutes in some of these storms. So, again, Sue, what's the rundown for hail and rain and winds?
Well, the rundown for hail is 2 inches or larger. Winds are up to 80 miles an hour. Interestingly enough, with all the other crazy stuff going on, I haven't seen anybody mention what the rain quantities might be.
That's true. We don't know. My guess is probably just reading stuff. Probably at least some places here locally may pick up 2 inches overnight.
I would think so. And I hate to bring this up, but Wilmington National Weather Service has not published a forecast discussion since 3:27 this afternoon, which I think we all know what's going on.
Yep.
And this this really frightens me on a day like this, that they apparently are understaffed.
Yeah, very, very likely, and a very worrisome tradition. I also see now tornado warnings have gone up for parts of the storms in the southern part of that squall line in eastern Indiana right now. So you have a couple of tornado warnings have gone up. Just show up on my little radar screen here in the last couple minutes.
And of course, meanwhile, just to add to all of this craziness, if you're south of Chicago, you have a haboob moving through right now.
Yes, I heard. You know, have any more about that? I know some real problems with dust and stuff in the air today.
Yeah, it's been pretty crazy. It's something you normally don't see in this part of the country, but it's been I've seen some pretty spectacular photographs.
Yeah. Folks, we forget in the middle of all the severe weather, there's been areas that really have been low on rain since back in March. So again, you're going to have some areas. Even though we've been in the 80s a few days, we had dew points some days in the 20s and 30s here. Which, when you 80-degree temperatures, that shows the air is extremely dry, and that's why sometimes we haven't gotten the rain everybody thought we get, because it evaporates before it hits the ground. Okay, on that note, Sue, we will keep you updated as the evening rolls on. If anything significant passes by, you check with us on our Facebook page, Twister Talk on Facebook, and that will give you an idea of what's going on. And
also, you know, like Brandon always says, he always emphasizes this: have at least two ways of being warned.
Absolutely, at least two ways: weather radio, your phone, your cell phone, be able to get warnings, because when the warnings hit, and they will hit tonight, I expect there'll be several tornado warnings in this area as the evening wears on, just because these storms are not weakening in any way, shape, or form. They are staying very strong. They're going to get stronger as they move into more favorable air, which has not been disturbed all day by showers or thunderstorms. So it's been a percolating experience. And I noticed that this afternoon, Sue, had to run some errands. We got out in place. It was about 3:30. Sue, there wasn't a cloud in the sky. We come out a half hour later, and it's just full of cumulus clouds.
Yeah.
So that's what I mean. This atmosphere in this is juiced and ready to rock. So please, again, be smart, be wise. This is going to last into the evening, and have a way to make sure you get warnings. If you hear anything, a siren or your phone goes off, or your weather radio goes off, for God's sake, get shelter immediately. You're not going to see anything coming. It ain't happening. Take shelter immediately, and stay alive and stay safe. For Twister Talk, I'm Gary.
I'm Sue.
And we'll be checking in with you.